Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. So many friends doing what they should. Joining here on time. We got about 1 more minute. Before we get started, I am going to share Findlay and Gotham's flip grids with the class today. If we have time at the end of class or even tomorrow, I may be able to share some more, but I'm super proud of your hard work, sharing that work from page 93 today. Speaking of 93, you need to make sure that you're opened up to 93 right now and that you have your math notebook. We're going to do an extension of page 93 together. So the instructions in your lesson today didn't talk about the extension. We're going to actually do a little bit of that right now, just to go along with writing the word form, along with your decimal form and your fraction form today. I can tell Finley's getting his notebook out. Thank you so much. If your camera is not on, please go ahead and turn it on if you can, if you wish. That way I can just make the connection. You're here, following along. Thanks so much, Sophia. Super proud of you. Welcome, Nadia. So glad you're here. Thank you for doing what you should. Carly, awesome. We're having a great turnout today for our live meeting. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share my screen with you to go over page 93. If you just joined us, please have your math notebook along with your math journal out. The one that we did today in class for our hundredths place was 22 hundredths as our example, and that reminded us of our 2 tenths and 2 hundredths, breaking that apart into our place values. And then our final decimal that Mrs. McBride asks you to say out loud, even though it feels a little silly while you're at home, it helps you to make that connection, 0 and 22 hundredths. So when you used your online tools today, this is where you should have seen your flat with your longs and your single cubes. With your fraction, you showed that it was 22 hundredths. And then on your page 93, you followed along and had 0 and 22 hundredths. The part that I want you to have right now in your notebook, that math notebook, is that we're actually going to write the word form, which I typed here, but I'll go ahead and write with you how we say 22 hundredths in word form. And one of my little tricks that I always like to tell my students is when you're writing this and it's after the decimal point, I always like to say the snakes are at the end of the decimal, and I kind of put a little S there to remind you of the hundredths, where you have those snakes after the decimal point. We always know that we've been counting by whole numbers our whole life, and now we're talking about that decimal point, that magic invisible decimal point that's always been there, and the tenths and hundredths place after that. So just reminding yourself, we're going to actually write word form for a couple of friends with their creations today and making sure that they created their hundredths place. Is there someone who would like to share what hundredths they created? It doesn't have to be the one that you did on your flip grid. You can just say a hundredths place that you created using this tool today. I'm going to hear from Gotham and Findlay later with your flip grids. Carly, let's hear it, my dear. What was your hundredths place that you created?
One of them was 21 hundredths.
21, perfect. So as you take a peek on this, did your grid look something similar to this?
Yeah.
Awesome. She had 2 tenths and 1 hundredth. So when you come back to your page, she had 21 hundredths. Like I just showed you, she broke it up into those 2 longs, or those 2 tenths and 1 hundredth. So she just went one smaller, and then it was 0 and 21 hundredths. Go ahead and repeat that at your house right now. 0 and 21 hundredths. Nadia, thank you so much. I know it sometimes feels silly, but saying it out loud helps you connect it with your writing. Love that. And then on your math notebook, we are going to write 21 hundredths. And remember, if you like that snake trick, you can have that snake at the end, 21 hundredths. I know someone in here is a Harry Potter fan. Might be, yeah, that's what I thought. You can think of Slytherin. Moving on, we'll have one more friend before I show a couple of flip grids that used this strategy today. Tatum, could you tell me one of your hundredths that you created? Go ahead and click unmute, sweetheart.
I think she wanted to unmute, but she left.
Oh, I think she clicked leave instead of unmute. You're so right. Oh, she joined back. Say that happens sometimes, no big deal. Tatum, are you there, dear? She might be having some technical difficulties. It's okay. Is there anyone else who's willing to share their other fraction or their decimal, shall I say, that they made with their flat? Sophia, can you tell us one of yours, sweetheart? She's thinking about it. That's all right. We'll go ahead and do a different one in the tenths place besides a 2. So if we want to do 43 hundredths, I'm going to show you how we need to make sure that we have 4 tenths. So I would simply drag my longs to create my base 10 blocks. They are my 4 tenths. And then I would have my singular cubes for my hundredths. Some of you in your flip grids today use different colors for your tenths and hundredths. Totally fine. You were distinguishing the difference between those two. I loved that. So as we take a peek, you saw how we had those 4 longs for 4 tenths and then 3 hundredths for our decimal of 0 and 43 hundredths. Rock on. And then in our word form, the last one, 43 hundredths. Make sure you're following along. I love how you're doing that, Angel. I can tell you're writing down in word form. Thanks so much for listening and following along. Nice job, Anant. All right, moving on. We have a couple of friends who are willing to share today their creations on their flip grid.
So the one that I picked was 53 hundredths, and the reason why is this is the decimal point 0.53 hundredths. Wow. And that's what I got in my book, and the little way that I did it is I rolled dice just because I just didn't want to make some up, so yeah. And I'll see you all next time.
Love that. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and give 3 claps to Mr. Finley. Rock on. Show him those claps. We are recognizing him. Indeed, I love a celebration. I love how you said you rolled the dice. We gave the suggestion of, you know what, you don't have a partner at home. Roll dice. Show that you have maybe on cards 1 through 10. You could use those to create your base 10 block numbers with your hundredths place. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Make sure one improvement. We've got a celebration and an improvement. Remember, we got to get away from saying point with that decimal. What should you say instead, Mr. Finley, whenever you're doing that decimal point?
0.
So close.
53.
Instead of saying point, say and.
Oh, 0 and 53
hundredths.
hundredths.
There we go. The more we practice, the better we'll get at it. Super, super proud of you. And then my second friend that wanted to share today was Mr. Gotham.
Hello guys, it's me, Gotham. So I'm going to show you the fraction that I did on page 93. And don't mind this, it's just an extra base 10 block. Okay, so this is my base 10 blocks, and the decimal point for that is 0.40. Because it has 4 tens and no ones, so if it had ones, it would be either 42 or how many ever ones it is. And so that's my answer. Bye.
Rock on. Super proud of you. 3 claps for Gotham. Fantastic. Show him how we appreciate him and his bravery to show his work with the class. Thank you so much. Celebration, I love how you did just the 10th place. We haven't had somebody yet today that has shown that we have our base 10 block, and he simply just did the longs. He said, you know what, I'm just going to do 10ths. And I know it's kind of hard to get away from 10s and 1s place, but it's okay. The celebration I wanted to share with you is that you did a beautiful job of making sure to write with your 0 and 40 hundredths. Remember, another way of saying that, if you are wanting to make sure that 4 is still in the same place value, if you just say 0 and 4 tenths. So you could have 0 and 40 hundredths is equivalent to 0 and 4 tenths. Either way, I just wanted to make sure that you understood that as well. Super proud of you guys. Quick update I did want to share with you. We are having our Flipgrid challenge this week. Period 1 is in the lead. 82% of them have got their Flipgrids done from yesterday and today. And 73% for period 2 and 73% for period 3. So you guys are at a tie. We have our Flipgrids today and yesterday and one more tomorrow. And that'll be the end of the challenge, and we'll see what percentage, what class has the highest percentage. So keep up the great work. Super proud of you. Last but not least, as always, we are going to make sure that we are reviewing our math boxes for today. So if you have a question or the one that you want to talk about the most, please type in the chat what math box you would like to review the most. Maybe it was tricky, maybe you just want to make sure you have the correct answer. There is no harm at all, just make your vote and we'll see who wins. Thank you so much for voting. We see some votes for number 5, some votes for number 2. I love how you're following along. Super proud of you guys. All right, it looks like 2 is going to be our winner to begin with today. Remember, even if you think, I got number 2 right, I totally understood that. You may be the one that I asked to share your work, or you may need to correct your work, or just give yourself a smiley face if you realize, you know what, I did do this one correctly. If you need to have that math notebook next to you, as always, make sure it's there as well. All right, John's rectangular backyard, if you don't have that drawn, make sure you're doing it now, has an area of 56 square feet. Anybody remember our formula for area? You can type yes in the chat or raise your hand. Yes, Gotham. Nice job. You typed length times width. He typed in the chat. So if you don't have that written in your notebook or inside your math journal, this is your chance to do so now. Since they're asking us for they're telling us the area is 56 square feet, I know the area. So I'm a little curious what they're going to be asking of me. The width of his backyard measures 8 feet. So I'm going to make sure to label that. And then the final question, if you want to do my little swirlies, whatever you need to do for your final question, what is the length of his backyard? Well, there we go. That is my unknown. Remember, now that you're a 4th grader, we're not using question marks. We're using those letters to remind ourselves of the unknown. The length would be, well, I know the width is 8, and my length is what I need to find. So if I have my facts memorized, I could tell myself what times 8 is 56, or I can use my division, which is in the same fact family as multiplication. 56 divided by 8 equals my length as well. I love that. A few friends are typing in the chat. If you want to type the equation or the answer for the length, go ahead and do so now. Oh, a lot of people typed length times width for their equation. I love that. Thank you so much. Nice job, Tatum. I totally agree. Make sure you have that label when you're typing in an answer. We're talking about feet today, so make sure we type in that label. I have a lot of friends saying 7 feet. And I totally agree. Your length should be 7 feet because 7 times 8 equals 56. So when you dissect that question, you have the background knowledge of length times width is area to follow along to solve that question. Remember, finding that final question is sometimes the hardest piece. What are they asking me? Make sure you're indicating what that question is. All right, we'll vote one more time. Go ahead and type. If yours didn't win last time, that's okay. Go ahead and type one more time, 1, 3, 4, or 5. Awesome. We are going to do some extended facts. It looks like we are all moving on to number 5. Number 5, it may have looked a little cumbersome or a little overwhelming, but honestly, if you take a peek, we just have 4 different rows of questions. I will do 5A, and then I'll ask if anyone wants to share for 5C. 5 times 9 is my simple fact. 5 times 9 is 45, so I know that I'm going to be using that as I extend this to my next 2 questions. 9 times 5 is 45, and then I'm thinking to myself, with these zeros, I'm adding place values. Those 3 zeros mean I'm going to add 3 more place values. And then I start at the end where that invisible decimal point has always been, and count 3, and our answer should have been 45,000. Same process for 9,000 times 50. Simple fact is the same. 45, and then I add my place values. There are 4 place values this time. Same process. We know that that invisible decimal point has been there the whole time, and my answer should be 450,000. Thumbs up if you're feeling, you know what, I understand this a little bit more now. I'm remembering our extended facts. It shouldn't be as overwhelming. Thanks, Carly. Thanks, Angel. Anyone brave enough to try 5C with their extended simple fact and then the extended fact? You can type yes in the chat or raise your hand if you think you're in my viewing area. And don't be intimidated. I know it can be, those place values can seem a little intimidating sometimes, but we got to answer. Otherwise, we are not able to share. It's okay. You don't have to share if you don't want to. Someone just said, sorry, I'm not comfortable. That's all right. Sometimes we want to, sometimes we don't. I totally understand. Carly, let's hear it, my dear. Our simple fact we'll start off with is 9 times 7.
9 times 7 is 63.
Rock star, love it. Moving on to the extended fact of 900 times 7. What would you need to do?
Our simple fact is 9 times 7 again, so 63, and add the extra zeros.
Awesome, and how many place values did you add?
5.
So if you take a look here, 900 times 7, we're only going to add those 2 place values. I think you might have been telling me that there were 5 altogether. Is that what you're trying to say? So close. It should be 6,300. There's 4 altogether. Super proud of you. 3 claps for Miss Carly. Awesome job. Thanks for being brave and sharing that with us today. We are wrapping it up. Now that we've gone through a couple of our math boxes, if you are sitting here going, I still need a little bit of extra help, you may go ahead and stay. Otherwise, our meet time tomorrow, as always for period 3, is at 12:30. And I'll be checking those flip grids. If you didn't quite get it done, make sure to try to get that done during your study hall from 2 to 3. Super proud of your hard work today. Make it a great day. Thank you for working so hard. Bye. And if you're here with a question, totally fine. I can touch base with you here in a moment. Miss Nadia, do you need me?
Yeah, we have a question.
Let's hear it, girl.
For number 5 on the math boxes,
Yes.
whenever we find out the answer, do we just add up the zeros, then put it behind the number we got?
Sure. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again. Whenever we're doing extended facts, it's just adding, you're right. That's a way of thinking of it. I just want you to think of it as adding a place value, but that is another way of thinking of it, is just adding those zeros. So you are indeed using your simple fact of 9 times 7, and then you had those 2 zeros, so you needed to add 2 more place values. That's just the strategy to use. Does that help? Awesome. Anything else for me, my dear? All right. Have a good one, Nadia. I'll see you tomorrow. Mr. Cyrus, what's up, my man?
I just got your envelope.
Yay! I told you period 3 won. So you've got your mail from Mrs. McBride. You won the challenge last week. Are you excited?
Yes, but you know what I got?
Yes, that was your treat. What about him, bud?
I'm not sure what the two are things at restaurants.
That's okay. You know what? If you need to give him as a gift to somebody, if you're not too fond of McDonald's, that's okay. You can give him as a gift.
But it's like, it's just says vanilla. And when I have a cup instead of a cone, so even though I'm allergic to the cone, I can still have a cup.
Oh yeah, I think they'll be flexible with that, my man.
Because it's just plain vanilla. No other ingredients, just plain vanilla.
You're a rock star. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm glad you received it. I'm going to chat with Miss Sophia now, my dear. Have a good one. I'll see you later, Cyrus. Have a great night. Bye.
Hello.
Miss Sophia, what's up, my dear?
I don't understand page 93.
Okay, so page 93 is very flexible today. So let me take a peek right here. Literally within our lesson, I know that at the very top it tells you you need a partner, all of this. Whenever you went through our lesson today, Mrs. McBride recorded everything you needed to know. Within that lesson, maybe you didn't get through it all, that's okay. Within that lesson, I explained that on slide 5, you're gonna click on this image. That's how I got to my tools for today. And like Finley said, he used dice. I suggested cards, dice, something to use, and you are literally the creator today. Yesterday, we talked and we had a really structured lesson, and you had to do exactly the ones that I asked of you. Today, you just literally get to create your own. So I could do, I'm 30 years old. I could have mine and say, okay, here I am. My fraction is 0 3/10 on my decimal, or you can have your fraction of 3/10. Remember, Gotham also had this where you could write it as 30 hundredths or 30 hundredths. There is no right or wrong answer, sweetheart. You get to create the hundredths on that page. Does that help?
Yeah, I thought like you had to have a certain number.
Nope, I did a couple with you in the video, and then it just explained that you are the creator today. You get to be the innovator, the explorer, however you want to put it. So there's no wrong answer. Just use that tool to help you since you don't have hands-on tools like you would at school.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sweetheart. Have a wonderful one. I'll see you tomorrow, okay?
Okay.
Bye.